Welcome to Carrow Road, where Norwich City have lost 2-0 to automatic promotion chasers Cardiff in what was actually, and maybe I'm saying this because I haven't been around for the last 3.5 weeks, I thought it was quite an enthralling game. It was really competitive. Two sides, I think, intent on kind of proving a point. Norwich did it against Aston Villa, showing the woulda, coulda, shouldas of their season, and clearly Cardiff, after losing back-to-back games at what is the most crucial part of the season, did not want to lose another one and effectively entirely derail their top two push. So from that point of view, it was competitive. We had a referee in Tim Robinson who again failed to control the game in the first half, and that's a regular theme with him. I don't know if he, in the end, the game sort of worked around him in the second half, so I don't know how much of an intrinsic difference he made to the spectacle. It's just he doesn't make them great games because of how he does things. But Norwich kind of do that themselves as well, because again, defensively they were pretty solid for most of the game. I think their build-up play was very good at times, but again, too much of the build-up takes it too close to the goal, and it was lovely to see Maurice Leitner back in the game. His first start in probably since he got injured several weeks ago. Norwich do a great job of getting to a certain point, but they either get too close to the goal and can't create a clear-cut opportunity from there, or they don't make the keeper work. For a game that included a lot of opportunities, there weren't a lot of chances and not many saves from either goalkeeper, which I think showed there were a lot of defensive blocks and some really solid defending today, so there's a lot of that going on. But in terms of the goal being exposed, we didn't see too much of that. Dennis Strabini came quite close, hitting the post. It's about as close as you can get, really, isn't it? But actually, Cardiff's best chances came late on, and after Kenneth Zohore's introduction, really a switch off from Norwich. I'm not entirely sure what happened in the build-up and whether James Maddison was somehow involved in that, because I haven't seen a replay of it. But a decent enough save from Angus Gunn, but he didn't half get caught out at his near post for the follow-up, and he just left a gap for Zohore to slot home, and that's a bit of a shame, really, because Angus has been so good this year. But that's a couple of errors in the last 3 or 4 games. So. And this is the thing with goalkeepers, as young and inexperienced as he are, he's been brilliant, but we're getting to the point now where young goalkeepers can tend to find a slight dip in form, and they've got to work through that. And with a goalkeeper, if you make a mistake, it's generally quite costly. And with that and what happened at QPR, I think Angus just needs to make sure he gets his head back in the game for the rest of the season and make sure it's strong, because that will dictate how he finishes this season, of course, but also primarily what happens next year, which is a big season for his development, because he's going to want to end up somewhere where he is playing regular first team football. That will be the minimum requirement, but of course it needs to be at a level that he wants to play at. As I said, great to see Maurice Leitner back in the side. For me, if Norwich can get him here next season, they do it no matter what. A great player, and I think he could bring a lot to Norwich, but they do have to do something that creates better shooting opportunities, even from further out, but just with more space, more time, not really penned in the 6-yard box, or not really having the support in the penalty area that happened once or twice this year. Plenty of things to work on, of course, but kudos for Jamal Lewis. I thought he was good today. I think he kind of struggled before I was off, and he was a bit in and out of the side since, but I think he was good defensively today. Still think he's got a bit of work to do with the ball, certainly when Norwich are attacking, but he was good. Mario Vrancic did very well. Dennis Strabini is doing well, linking up the play now. Can see that he doesn't look lost in the game, but we're still short of the goal threat. So there's lots of positives there from what was a good performance. I mean, I know people would have complained about this if it finished goalless, probably a little bit harshly, because ultimately Norwich have competed well. And I know a lot of people also think Cardiff were rubbish. They'll think, well, we saw Fulham up here a few weeks ago and they were brilliant and they won 2-0. I can't believe Cardiff are up there with Fulham and Villa. Well, Villa were shocking the other week for starters, but what I would just say in terms of Cardiff, they'd lost back-to-back games. This is such a crunch time of the season. The nerves would have been absolutely flowing today. So in fairness to them, they were resolute, they competed really well. They know all the dark arts, of course they do, they're under Neil Warnock, but they stayed in the game. They never really lost their heads. And then they produced the quality in the last few minutes. And actually, once they did get the goal, they were able, you could see the weight visibly lift off their shoulders, and they were at their fluent best from that moment on. Junior Hoylett, by the way, scoring an absolute peach of a goal with the outside of his foot on the volley. Just a wonderful strike. Angus Gunn, no chance. And there you have it. Boom, 2-0, job done. That could be the kind of late rally. I said both goals coming in the last 5 minutes, I think. That's the kind of performance that can really finish off your season a treat. And, you know, they have a game in hand as well against Derby that they'll be so desperate to win. It could be a very good end of the season for Cardiff. And, of course, it won't be for Norwich because their season is done and dusted. It has been for a while. And, again, that's the reality. I'm not excusing it. It's the reality in a game like this that the team that really desperately needs to, if they keep their heads, will go and win it because they have that drive. They were so desperate to win it in those last few minutes. And, of course, Norwich haven't got that. That's the excuse for today. What, of course, it reiterates is just how far off it Norwich have been this year. And that's not been good enough. Transition season apart, there is a lot of work still to do this afternoon at this football club to make it competitive next year and really build on it. We all know Norwich need new and refreshed striking options. We saw Nelson Oliveira come on late on, so that was, of course, as always, interesting to see. And you know, he did okay, but it was interesting, Daniel Farke's late substitutions team, and he does always make late substitutions. It's like he makes them when he feels they're extremely necessary rather than he'd like to do them. They did seem to alter the balance of the game, and again that might be a dose of hindsight, but clearly Norwich kind of lost their way after they made those changes, with Wesley coming on too, and a bit of a shame with Harrison Reed, who seemed to pick up looked like a back injury. He was holding his back. He was walking very stiffly off the pitch. I refrained from saying it was gingerly this time, unlike my tweet. But of course we're at the stage of the season now, 3 games to go, where if you hobble off with an injury, it could well end your season. And as a man who's on loan from Southampton, who took a step closer to relegation this afternoon, that might be it. We might not see him in the yellow shirt again. We will see. Norwich, of course, head to Preston next weekend, here the parish of Alec Neil. That will be an interesting occasion, given they are still in the playoff mix. So we'll see how that goes. But we are in the fringes of the season. There's nothing to play for here. And that's kind of why Cardiff, with everything to play for, managed to get 3 points this afternoon. At least the weather is glorious and it's sunny. Goodbye.